The GallowgateShots podcast is sponsored by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. We are back with another match preview. After the win at the weekend, we turn our attentions to the Bournemouth away game. I'm Scott, I'm your host for this one, and this week I'm joined by Andy, Daryl and Joe. And boys, we're going to jump straight into this one because it took about 5 takes to get this right, and I'm not doing it again. Yes, like I've said, we are turning our attentions to the Bournemouth away game. It's this Sunday, the 25th of August, 2 p.m. kickoff. And for those of us who can't get down there without enough loyalty points, it is live on Sky. It is at the Vitality Stadium, which does sound like a Muller fruit corner yogurt. But Bournemouth not doing too badly this season. It is only 1 game played, but they are 9th in the league, 1 position away from us. It's 1 game played, 1 draw, 1 goal scored, 1 against, 1 point, but a 0 goal difference. So just like last week, but with a 1 and not a 0. Anyway, before we get into the game and look into it, I do have some commentator stats, just like I did last week and like every week. Bournemouth have won just 1 of their last 9 Premier League games against Newcastle. Before that, it was 5 draws and 3 defeats. After keeping a clean sheet in our first Premier League match against Bournemouth, which was a 1-0 win. Does anyone know when that was? I'm going to guess that's a no. That was November 2015. Newcastle have conceded at least 1 in each of their last 11 games against the Cherries. Bournemouth haven't won a Premier League game in August since a 2-0 win against Aston Villa back in 2022. In those 8 winless games, they've scored 3 times and they've shipped an impressive 23 goals.
Oh, wow.
So don't let that sway your predictions for later on, lads. But yeah, 23 goals have been shipped in August since 2022. Newcastle are looking to win their opening 2 Premier League matches in a season for the first time since the 1997 to 1998 campaign. Can anyone remember who the manager was?
Kenny Dalglish.
Yes, thank you, Daryl. At least somebody knows the Newcastle history. Yes. But yep, that's it for my commentator stats. We'll take a little look at Bournemouth. Andy, mate, you watch Match of the Day. So tell us all about Bournemouth.
I did watch Match of the Day on my tiny phone screen whilst camping with no data, so decided to watch it again just now to see if I could remember it properly. But yeah, they're obviously up against Forest first game. 1-1 draw, very even game when you look at the stats actually, and the highlights reflected that, and I did see a little bit more than just the Match of the Day highlights as well. But the 2 teams kind of set up very similar to each other. Both played with the 2 sort of forward wingers and the striker, both of them trying to tuck them inside, so they actually caused Forest problems by bringing in Tavernier and Sinistera from the wide positions inside. But on the flip side, Forest did exactly the same with Alanga and Hudson-Odoi. So jumping ahead quite a bit, I do think this is going to be a game where we're going to see goals on both sides. I think Gordon cutting in and getting in behind that relatively weak Bournemouth midfield will work wonders. But likewise, we've seen when teams do the same to us, when they bring the wingers inside and Bruno has to sort of look the other way and do a full sprint, which, as we know, Bruno's full sprint is like 3 miles an hour. So They very close to losing the game. They scored in, I think, the 87th minute, something like that. Semenyo scored a little tap in, but they've looked quite good. Obviously, had an absolute horror show start to last season. Got the new manager in and managed to get themselves into 12th. So a bit of an unknown quantity going into the new season. But based on the performance we've just seen, I think they're going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, Joe, there is a bit of an unknown quantity with Bournemouth because obviously they've lost their big man up front in Dominic Solanke. I mean, I don't know how tall he is, but he was their top goal scorer. They have replaced him though. I think what was his name, Andy? You were telling us before we went on stage, and you didn't really want to say it again, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Brazilian
Evan
kid.
Nilsson.
Evan Nilsson. There
Evan
we
Nilsson.
go. Apparently, he's played with Bruno, as I think Daryl you were saying beforehand. But
international, yeah.
We're kind of going into the bit of the unknown, Joe, with this lad because he obviously didn't play last week. I think they've only just brought him in.
Yeah.
He may not even start, but probably position on the bench. Maybe he's come on second half to coin a phrase from Rick and Morty. Show us what he's got.
Well, I mean,
he might do that as well.
If the break out the dance, then I mean, yeah, not. I mean, Semenyo scored last week, so he started well. He looked busy against Forest, so I reckon that they'll probably get Semenyo in to start, and then this new lad. I mean, he might not start, but then you look back to what Isak did for us. The first game against Liverpool, like 3 days after, so he could be an absolute world beater. But we've got Osulu. How do you pronounce it again? Osulu on the bench. So he's
Osulu. He's back.
I'd take him back after his performances in the Champions League. Osula.
I'd take Osulu back. Osulu. Yes, we've got Osulu on the bench. So he's a bit of an unknown quantity, and with Callum Wilson injured, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a few minutes in the legs. It all depends, It's interesting what Andy was saying about the two wingers cutting in, though, because we saw the likes of Tino and Lewis Hall on Saturday just gone overlapping and causing some bombing runs. So I wouldn't be surprised if we can exploit a lot of space there. But yeah, it's. They've brought in a few players. I think for the most part, they're quite similar to the team that started last season, except obviously Solanke going, which is a big miss for them. But they're still a threat. For all Bournemouth are quite a small club in stature and size. They've been very consistent across the Premier League over the last few seasons. They're definitely, especially at home. I know we struggled last season, and Trippier was getting in scraps with the fans after the game and everything. We were in a pretty bad low point at that time, weren't we? I think it was in December. I'm looking forward to seeing us go down there relatively strong early in the season. Not many injuries. I know we're going to have Cher out and Kelly's going to be probably starting. He looked all right in pre-season. It's going to be a bit difficult. We're a bit of an unknown quantity in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see, man. Well,
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about our backline, Daryl. Obviously, we saw what happened with Fabian Cher. It doesn't look like we're going to be appealing that red card. I don't think it's worth the risk of a fourth game being added or an extra game turning into 4 games. So it looks like, we're going to be without Cher for 3 games, which isn't ideal. It means I'll probably miss the Forest game and the Spurs game as well, because the carryover to the Cup, from what I understand. So are you expecting it to be Kraft and Byrne, or do you think it'll be Kelly and Byrne? That'll be the back two with Tino and Hall as your fullbacks, or do you think it'll be back to Trippier? We all know how he responds with the Bournemouth crowd, as Joe alluded to. That they don't seem to like him for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, contrary to Joe saying Kelly there, I think it'll be Kraft who'll play alongside Dan Byrne in centre defence there. I think the back four itself pretty much, there's no reason after last weekend to change it from what it ended as. So yeah, bring Kraft alongside Byrne and have Tino and Hall as your wing backs. It's I've got a little stat here, and I don't want to put a downer on this just yet, but it'll be redeemed later when we get to that point. We have failed to score in 10 of our last 12 opening away games in the Premier League. That's Premier League and Championship. So that first away game of the season, we haven't scored in 10 out of the last 12. And also the little stat that I have here is for our away game record. That first away game in the Premier League, record for that is 29 opening away games, 6 wins, 8 draws, and 15 losses. Jeez, so it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest, I'm sorry. But we'll redeem that, because that back four will pick itself now and it'll be fine.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon. No, cheers, Daryl.
Bournemouth.
What you're saying is the whole thing's pointless.
Maybe it's not. Obviously, there was a lot of talk also, Andy, about Anthony Gordon's performance on Saturday. And, a lot of people said, "Oh, was he interested as he had been turned?" And I don't buy that for a second. I think it was just because he didn't have much for pre-season. I don't think he's going to get dropped. But do you think this is the type of game where maybe he's going to get more minutes in his legs, and this is the type of game where you'd expect maybe a bit more of a performance from him, just because of the opponent. It's the type of game that he's going to thrive on, really, and maybe he's look to get those extra, kind of minutes in and just thrive off playing against a team a bit like Bournemouth, without causing any disrespect to Bournemouth. You'd like to think this is more of his style of game than maybe what we faced last weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the sake of my fantasy team, he wants to pull his finger out for this game, to be honest. No, because no one else did.
Last week, so he wants to help himself as well.
Oh, did he? Yeah. I think Gordon was a frustrating watch. Obviously, the first half before the red card, the whole team looked a bit off the pace. I think Southampton were really fired up and they were really zipping it around, playing through the press, and I just don't think we were quite there. I trust that we would have picked it up had the red card not happened. But yeah, Gordon, he looked a little bit sloppy, tried a few nice touches, and the player like Gordon, he's so reliant on that kick of pace and that sharpness. I think it just looks worse for a player like him, but the whole team wasn't great at the start. But you mentioned about Bournemouth, the sort of game where it should be more open for him. You've mentioned about wingers cutting in, having joy against them. Although, having said that, he's got a massive drop-off in away games. I don't know what the stats are, but basically all of his contributions for us have been in home games, apart from, I think, the Sheffield United 7,000 nil or whatever it was that we had last season. So yeah, I think we all have got that niggling thought in the back of our mind, because of the way we are as fans. If he does underperform, we automatically just think it's going to be the worst, when it could just be that he's having an off game. So I think we could do with the reassurance of him having a typical Anthony Gordon game, to be honest, because we all love him. We all know how amazing he is. And if he is rubbish after the Euros, this is completely Gareth Southgate's fault, and I'm glad he got sacked.
You know what it is, right? I didn't even think it was that bad, I didn't think Gordon was like that bad. Yeah, he wasn't completely on the as pace as what he's used to, but like,
he's just set a high standard for himself, hasn't he? Yeah.
That's it, man. He was making some good runs in. He was causing problems to their wing back. I just didn't think it was that bad.
It just wasn't a typical Anthony Gordon performance.
Well, I know. It's hard to judge against 10 men, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and by the way, to any Bournemouth fan watching, I'm not saying that Southampton are a better side than Bournemouth. It's more just we're not going into the unknown. We kind of know what to expect when we play Bournemouth. Then what we played last week, when it was a new side coming up from the Championship that we hadn't played for a couple of years, and you don't know what to expect, which we discussed last week in the match review. So if you haven't seen that, go and watch that, because it was a good one. I know it's all in the past now, but go and watch it.
Well, in that preview, I said 2-0 Joe Linton would score first, and I was so close.
He was so close.
I said Joe Linton would score as well.
4-0.
I said 3-0 Joe Linton to score.
Yes, well, that's all in the past now, as I've said. So we'll
it would have been without the red card.
We'll talk a little bit more about ourselves, because that's what we do best. Obviously, Isak got his assist on the weekend, and he was kind of hindered a bit because of the red card and the way the game. Are we expecting, provided everything goes our way but doesn't go against us in terms of losing a man, Joe? Are we expecting Isak to play more of that central attacking role and to get back into the swing of things, in terms of like, I can actually play my game, as opposed to having to play he's almost like a winger at times and playing a bit deeper?
Probably.
The Isak that we see when he was maybe carrying a knock at times last season, where he was coming deep, he was playing out on the wing and not getting into those central positions a bit last time.
I think it depends on the midfield, to be honest. I think what we need to do is allow the likes of Joe Linton and probably Bruno to an extent. I know he sits a bit further deep, but allow those midfield runs to go through the centre, which then gives the likes of Gordon and then probably Murphy or whoever it might be on the right the space to go out to the flanks and to make those driving runs in behind. The main reason why Isak does tend to drift wide is because he's obviously needing to support and cover, and where there might be something lacking. And that is normally when we revert to long balls. So if we can play out from the midfield a little bit more, which we showed we could do. Joe Linton had the game of his life last week, making those runs, and I think if we continue that, then I think we then provide the opportunity for Isak to stay central and to hopefully be more the target man, the poacher that's inside the box, because that's obviously when it thrives.
This is how Forest scored as well, for what it's worth. If someone came inside, then it was Ryan Yates made a bomb and run from midfield from deep. Came in, had a shot, and then Chris Wood just poked it in. And that was it.
Yep.
Well, that's it.
So that's the sort of
Yeah.
situation you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. So you need that support alongside Isak to be able to like those second balls and what have you. I think if like going back to what you said about the space opening up from the wingers, Bournemouth wingers inverting. Again, if you allow the likes of our fullbacks to go up into space, then you've got probably Murphy and Gordon who can cut it a bit more inside, provide that support for Isak, and there's no need for him then to drift out wide. So if they give us that space, then we will see that more central position for Isak, and hopefully 1 or 2 goals from him, because it would be great for him to get his season up and running at this early stage in August. Because we're due 30 goals from the lad. He's mint.
Yeah, I suspect if that's how Bournemouth are going to set up and those wingers are going to tuck in, we will then probably see most of our attacks come from Tino and Hall. Our attacks will be better off starting from those positions to make use of the space that they'll have.
Yeah, and overload the box and keep the main guys central. Yeah. It'll be nice to see. I hope he gets a bit of space, because you don't need to give Isak a lot.
No, he's the perfect poacher for this type of scenario, I would say, and that's kind of what maybe he's going to need. Obviously, Daryl, there is the elephant in the room of, to get into those positions, we kind of do need players to take shots, which is maybe a big criticism we had last season of when the ball's in and around the 18-yard box, you're screaming at players to take those shots, and sometimes we maybe try to be a bit too clever and we don't take those shots at times, and maybe that's what we're going to need tomorrow on Sunday.
Who does that suspended?
Yeah,
that's true.
And do you know what? I think a lot of teams are guilty of that as well. They'll get into that dangerous area in and around the 18-yard box, and then all of a sudden, rather than like take a gamble and have a shot, they'll then just try and move it around the edge of, like, around the perimeter of the box to try and find that gap to put a ball across. Whereas we certainly have the quality in our squad. Longstaff, it is in his locker, as much as we don't see it very often, like you've mentioned. Bruno can do it. Joe Linton can do it. Gordon can do it. Even Murphy can do it. Miggy can do it. And even Barnes. Barnes is the perfect example. If you go back to the game at home against West Ham last season, he won us the game by doing that, by having them pot shots from outside the box. We do need to do that more often. But again, it just seems to be this modern thing at the moment is, maybe we've learned it from pet ball or something, where you've got to pass it around the box and find that little gap in the box and then put a ball in from wide, or try and thread a ball into the, it's almost like the old Arsenal thing where you have to pass it into the net. It seems to be the modern thing, but there's nothing better than when you see somebody take a punt from outside the box and you just see it sailing.
That's why the start of the Euros was mint, because everyone was just
kidding it from 25 yards, weren't they?
Everyone was just leathering it. All the Romanians rocked up and just started leathering it from 40 yards out. It was class.
They probably all just put that 6-1 match against Spurs in and just watch that Jacob Murphy strike on repeat just to get them hyped up. Lads, this is what you need to do. Just smash it, leather it. 25 yards.
They're going to back off.
I think a lot of it has to do with the ball as well, because that ball at the Euros had that little sensor in, and maybe they thought, this hasn't got a valve.
Just a little mini game.
We can hit this anywhere and it's going to fly. So maybe that's what they thought. Maybe we've got that in the Premier League. I don't know what the ball's like in there. We'll come on to everyone's favourite part of the match predictions, Daryl. He's getting himself ready. Look at that. Look at the chest getting pushed up.
The stance.
Yes, he's standing tall, ready to get his card out. We'll come on to Ref Watch. You didn't warn us last week how bad it was going to be, so I'm going to cut you short. You can take your time with this one. No, let us know about the man in charge. Take it away with Ref Watch, Daryl.
Well, based on what happened when we had this referee last season, we actually could be in for something here. So referee for this one is going to be David Coote from West Sussex.
I told you.
Over 4 Newcastle games last season. 3 wins and 1 defeat. Wins being the 4-0 against Palace, a 3-0 against Wolves, and a 4-0 against Spurs, believe all at St James's Park. Sadly presided over the 3-0 loss at Goodison, which we want to just forget about for now. His record for last season was 16 Premier League games, so he actually refereed a quarter of our game. The games that he refereed, a quarter of them involved us. Dishing out 86 yellow cards and 3 reds. VAR for this one is going to be Tim Robinson.
Was he not the ref in the League Cup final as well 2 years ago? I think.
David Coote. Maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't look that
Yeah.
far.
Oh, Daryl,
Go
you're
get your
the
spreadsheet out,
Hey.
Daryl.
You should know that.
Right, I'm taking over
I'm just
Ref Watch.
focusing.
Right.
Hey, I'm just focusing on the 4 games that he did last season and the fact that we
I know
won
that
3 of
he's
them
not
with an
bald.
average goal difference of
Not
11.
good enough.
So 11.
He's got hair, that one.
He's got hair. That's all that matters.
Aye, well, he did last
That's
season.
all that matters. Thank you, Daryl. Right, we'll move on to our predictions. Joe, mate, I'm going to come to you first for this one. Predictions. What are you going for?
Okay. Because Shaz not in and we don't know exactly who's going to start, whether it be Kraft or Kelly, I think and Hall was looking to get up to speed a little bit. He was a little bit, he had some good moments, but he was a bit rusty. So I think
the
we've
yellow
got
card
him
had a lot to do
concede.
with Hall's performance. As well.
Yeah,
He got a yellow card for,
I
like,
know. But
3
I'm
seconds
not being
or
funny.
something.
It was a yellow though, like, so you got kind of got. But anyway, I reckon we'll do it 2-1. We're gonna win 2-1, and I'll say that Gordon and Isak get off the mark. Be lovely if that happens.
Nice. Daryl, mate, we'll come back to you. What's your predictions?
Well, I don't want to sound like a parrot cooing over Joe's shoulder there, but I'm going 2-1 as well. And rather than also
You've
go
got the
with
feathers
Isak
for one.
rather than go with Joe's 2 goal scorers, I'll say Isak and Joe Linton.
There you go. So you'll take one of the goal scorers, but you'll change one.
Yeah.
Nice one. Andy, mate, what are you going for?
There really is a parrot. 2-1 Newcastle. I just thought both teams to score. My brain's saying 1-1 because it's just that awkward early away game, like Daryl's gone on, saying with the stats and stuff. But it's so early in the season, I cannot be predicting us to not win every single game at this point because positivity is still high.
Until somebody tells us otherwise, you go for a win.
Yeah. So 2-1, and agreed. Isak to get the winner from the penalty spot. Let's say.
Ooh, penalty.
And we'll suddenly love referees.
Consider me pining for the fjords because I'm also going to be a parrot. A live one, though, not a dead one. That's a Monty Python reference for anyone under the age of 30. But yes, I'm also going to say it's 2-1. I think it'll be an Anthony Gordon brace. I still think Isak might knock it off the mark this time, but I think Gordon might have maybe took the criticism this week to heart, and he'll have a point to prove. So yeah, I think it'll be Anthony Gordon with a brace. 2-1. No penalties or anything like that, and no red cards. Please, God, no red cards. Ruins the game. Get rid of red cards. Just get rid of them.
Quick one.
No.
Do you reckon that Trippier will still be on the bench, given that he obviously was getting some minutes the other day?
Yes,
Do you think
I think Trippier
will start?
Trippier on the bench.
I do think. So go on.
If Trippier's still at the club by Sunday, I think he'll be on the bench.
That's a good point, That's a good point because it's going to be.
We've got a long way to go. It could be Harrison Ashby on the bench. If Kraft is playing centre back.
I do think the mix between
it's up in the air with that.
Yeah, I do think the mix between him not having a proper pre-season and just all the rest of it and his future being up in the air is just the perfect excuse for how just to start to, because I think he has been not looking for it because Trippier was there on merit last season, but I do think it's the right time to start embedding Tino into the starting 11. You'll probably see Trippier for the Forest game, the cup game.
Yeah,
that might be a good place to start, assuming he's not away. But I mean, God, it's a good set of competition to have in that right back spot, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Chris will probably do another lineup prediction, which is why we don't do them in these videos anymore. We have a separate video for the lineup. So if you're waiting for that, we do that in a separate video now. So keep your eye on that on the GallowgateShots channel. We also have a ton of other content as well coming your way. There's a video went up yesterday that Chris and Decker did, and also went up today on the audio, talking about the Bruno captaincy. I think it was Joe Linton was also being talked about on there as well. I did a video comparing this kit that I'm wearing right now with the original 96-97 kit, as well as the 2018-2019 Puma version of this kit, and also the 20... When was it? 2009,
1819, I think.
No, the Adidas, the other burgundy and blue
one.
one.
Sorry.
The Over Martins one. That's on the channel. Canny Chat, I'll be back next week. on audio. And if you want to watch a video of that, you can become a member. Talk about that in a second. Loads of content, always smiling faces when it was
Check
out
the
on
TikTok as
Monday.
well.
Yep, TikTok. We've got tons of content on
Got
there.
the season predictions out there.
Instagram. Yep, loads of content coming your way. So if you've liked this, if you like all that we ask is you scroll down from this video, you hit the thumbs up button, and you become a subscriber. It costs you nothing to do any of that sort of stuff, and it helps this channel massively to do that. If you do want to help us out and add a little bit to this channel, you can become a member. It's $2.99 a month, and that's gets you early access to videos like this and like everything I've just been talking about there, and it gets you access to the Telegram group and exclusive access to certain content. Like I said, with Canny Chatter, you get 30 minutes of extra content, and you get video access to that. If you want that sort of stuff, like seeing me and Joe and Ian and Harry talking, and it also gets you exclusive videos that aren't accessible to normal people watching this who aren't paying members. But yeah, like I said, if you don't want to do any of that, you just become a subscriber. It's free to do on YouTube. And if you listen on audio, 5 stars is all that we ask for on Spotify or Apple. Boys, does anybody want to add anything before we wrap this one up?
Yes, the parrot is not deceased.
It is not deceased, although you've got all its feathers on your top still. We'll not let that one go.
You do something to the parrot.
I thought he was going to stand up there. I thought he was going to give it a twirl. Other chocolate bars are available.
I don't want to see a parrot.
That's members only.
That's members only. Yeah, we'll get that in the Telegram group. Daryl's twirl.
Only members access.
I'm going to end it there. We'll end
Yeah.
it on Daryl's twirl.
Probably for the best, mate. Probably for the best.
Thanks everyone for watching. We'll
Give
see
us
you
your
all in the next
predictions.
one. Yep, give me your
Cheers.
predictions in the comments below as well. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.